to Half Hour With. I'm Kelley Carter, the senior entertainment reporter for ESPN's Undefeated, and your host for today's conversation. It is my absolute pleasure to moderate this convo with Sascha Penn, who is the showrunner, executive producer of Starz' Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, which is a prequel to the hit series Power, and Patina Miller, who stars as Raquel Thomas in Raising Kanan. Welcome to you both, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let's start here with you, Sascha. For the people who haven't watched the show yet, can you please give a quick overview synopsis of what it is you guys get into in this universe?
Sure. I mean, I think you said it. You know, it's an origin story for a character from the original Power series, Kanan, who was realized by 50 Cent in the original series. But you know, we always like to specify that you don't need to have watched Power to access this series. It's a series that exists on its own. It's set in 1991, and you know, at its most basic, Kelley, it's a family drama, right? It's a coming of age story of this character Kanan, but really specifically, it's about him and his mother, Raquel, who is amazingly realized by Patina Miller, and she has a burgeoning drug empire that she runs in South Jamaica, Queens, again in 1991. And at the same time, she's raising this son, who of course he's 15, 16 years old. He's starting to sort of realize things about his mom and his life and his family that sort of weren't apparent to him earlier. So he's sort of trying to navigate that. At the same time, you have Raquel, his mother, who's frankly trying to raise him in this high stakes world and sort of balance. I mean, in a way, it's this universal story of a single mother trying to balance her job and being a parent, yet at the same time her job is incredibly high stakes and dangerous. And so, you know, and there's the extended family of his uncles. There's a rival named Unique, who's played by Joey Badass. But yeah, I mean, that's basic. It really is. It's a family drama set in 1991, South Jamaica, Queens, and it's a story of a mother and a son.
And with that, I think that's a great time to play this trailer and let people take a closer look.
Great.
Ma, I want to help you. Get me started in the business.
The streets don't play, Kanan. That's what I keep trying to tell you. But you don't want to hear me, though.
Come on, man.
This is my story. This is the Southside Jamaica Queens story.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. You said you was gonna get me involved.
You pull that trigger, you in it.
Listen to the bass go boom.
You can't afford the war right now, Rock.
I ain't getting on my knees, Nick. Not for you or no man.
Still in training, time to put them reps in.
Let's do this.
I'm gonna take this city, bitty world by storm, and I'm just getting warm. I'm gonna knock you out. Mama said knock you out. I'm gonna knock you out. Mama said knock you out. I'm gonna knock you out. Mama said knock you out.
You wanted to be in it? You in it.
Uh-oh.
I want to go back and marathon.
Yeah.
That kind of makes me want to go back and watch it too.
I know, and I'm going to be doing it over the holiday break. So Sascha, at what point did you all decide that you wanted to tell this origin story? And how did you guys decide that you wanted to tell it from the prism of a female drug kingpin, something that we almost never see in TV and film?
Well, the origin of how the series came to be is that 50 and Courtney Kemp, who created Power, came to me and said, listen, we think there could be a series that's built around Kanan as a kid. And their original vision for it was sort of Goodfellas set in sort of the Power universe. And, you know, that was a really appealing idea to me. Kanan is a much beloved character from the original Power. I was on the first season of Power. But also, you know, that era in New York is so exciting in many respects. And So, we talked about it. They said to me, we'll come back with an idea, a pitch, whatever. And it really felt to me that this character, like most of us, we are formed by our relationships with our parents. And it felt like, especially given that 50's relationship with his own mother was complicated, and his mother died when he was much younger than Kanan is in the series, but we had talked a little bit about that. So it felt to me like that was the natural place to go, that Kanan's relationship with his mother felt like sort of the fundamental relationship for him that would direct and guide him, for frankly, the rest of his life. Turning her into a drug dealer, I mean, again, that period in New York, specifically in South Jamaica, is sort of a legendary moment in New York City drug dealing history. There were these sort of outsized characters who, and this is in real life, were controlling the drug trade. There was a guy named Supreme, another guy named Fat Cat, another guy named Tommy Mickens. And these guys are sort of New York City legends even today. And so it just felt like that made sense, to have Kanan's mother be in the business and have him sort of looking at her thinking like, maybe I could do that. And also at the same time, again, as I said earlier, it's such a complex relationship, because on the one hand, this is his mother, his caretaker. On the other hand, he knows who his mother is. He knows what she does. And he knows that she has a capacity for, frankly, violence. And so that's a very complicated relationship for a kid, where your caregiver is also someone who's frankly dangerous. And I think that's really something to give Patina, Patina deserves all the credit in the world for taking this, and turning it into something that, frankly, I never would have imagined in a million years. You've watched the series, you've seen what Patina has done. And it's just, she's given it a life that, frankly, I never would have imagined. And it's spectacular. What can I say?
It's a great word for her work. I can think of so many other words too, because you really did turn in some phenomenal work, Patina. But let's go back to the beginning. I would love to hear you talk about the process of getting cast and what your reaction was like when you got the call that you would be joining the Power universe. Again, this beloved universe that people have these expectations, and you obviously over delivered, but talk to me about that casting process for you.
Well, I was absolutely already familiar with the franchise. I was a fan of Courtney Kemp. While Power was going on, I was on a show called Madam Secretary for 6 years. And I was nearing the end of my run in that show. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I was very specific with myself. I was like, you know what? I want to do something. I want to take risks in the next role that I hopefully will get. I want to play a really amazing character, three-dimensional. I've always been wanting to find a character where I could really pull out all the different sides of myself, really. I mean, so often in auditions, reading scripts, Black women are portrayed in one way or the other. And there's just so many beautiful things about us that we don't really normally get to portray, and you don't really get to see on screen. So I had been sort of secreting that, putting it out into the universe that hopefully this role would come to me. And I took a leap of faith, went out to LA, I met some people, and then I met Sascha. And that is how Power kind of fell into my lap, and we met and we talked about it. I remember reading the script and thinking like, oh my gosh, she's not only a badass, but she's like a mother, and I can connect with that, right? Like she's driven, she's hungry, she's about her family. I started really connecting myself to her. And that's what I think a lot of people do when they watch this show, when they watch Rock, is she's so relatable. And so there is just something about her that seems like familiar. And I know for me, she felt very familiar, someone who is not perfect, someone who has a lot of shit. But at the end of the day, she loves hard, and she's showing all of these different sides of herself at all times. And I thought, like, I have to do this. And so I met with Sascha, we talked about it, and I auditioned. I remember being at my last day on Madam Secretary, and they had did a series wrap on Patina, and I got a call, literally, series wrap on Patina, and I get a call that I had gotten the role of Raquel Thomas, and that the show was going to be called Raising Kanan based. I had no idea what it was really about because there were all these dummy sides, and I didn't know that it was for the lead role. I just knew that I had to play this woman, and here we are.
I love it. And I also love that you said that Raquel is familiar, because I was going to ask, how did you become Rock? Was there anyone that you were channeling, whether fictional or in real life, that you kind of put into the essence of building out Raquel as a character?
Yeah, I was channeling so many different women. I wasn't channeling just one person. There's so many strong women in my life. I've been blessed the opportunity to sort of be around a bunch of women like that. My mom was a single mother. She was 15 when she had me. I know what that's like. I watched her growing up, trying to make a way for us, walking me to school, then going to work, like all of these things. And my grandmother, being a strong woman, my aunts, people that I've met in the business, a lot of these women who I admire inspired my work. And it wasn't really hard to step into this character, because once you get into who she is and what the heart is, and that really was for me, what I was trying to get to is what's inside, what does she want? And once I could connect with, this woman is a dreamer. This woman has dreams just like anyone else. Okay, yeah, it's the drug game, but you know what? She's turned all of these things into an opportunity to better herself. She wants to help her son. She wants to help everyone around her. She's a giver. She's a matriarch. And I connected with that so much because I've been blessed to be around so many women like that. And I'm a mother myself. I know what it's like to want to protect your child more than anything. And so I really just tried to bring honest truth to her, and not just she's a badass or she's ruthless, because we get to play that, right? Black women get to play the strong, like that's not hard. But for me, I wanted to play her. I wanted to see her vulnerability. I wanted to tap into the different parts of her, when she does choose to smile, what that means. And, and she's fighting for so many things and she never lets up. All of these things were just so beautiful to me. And, I'm just really blessed that I had the opportunity, still have the opportunity to play this character.
Patina won a Tony Award for Pippin. Her range is incredible, and that was so important for the role, because one of the fundamental questions the series asks is, can you be a ruthless drug dealer and a loving mother at the same time, right? And that's frankly one of the questions that the character is constantly grappling with. And Patina's capacity to access both sides of the character in that way is really what distinguished her from everyone else. It feels totally credible when she's with Kanan as Kanan's mother, right? That she loves him and there's no one more important to him. That's real. That's the truth. And yet at the same time, she does function in this other part of the world, other part of her life that she's equally passionate about, right? And you believe her there too. The interesting thing about the show is when those two worlds sort of collide and leak into each other, that's where things get interesting and dangerous. When Patina, auditioned for the role, it was a wrap.
Yeah.
It was done. She walked out of the room. We're like, we got that done.
Yeah. No,
you know what?
Let's stay there, Sascha, because that's actually what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask what made Patina right for this role. And I specifically wanted to hear you talk about her audition for the role of Raquel, and what stood out and why you said, we're done. Mic drop, like it's her.
Yeah. I think it was a few things. If you're lucky enough to be in the same room with Patina, when she walks in the room, you feel her presence in a way that's sort of monumental. Like you're like, oh shit, something, the energy in the room just changed, and so I think for those of us who were there, I think like 4 or 5 of us in the room, I think we all felt that, like, oh, okay. All right. And this is before she even started talking. And then, we talked for a little bit, and she did speak about her childhood and her mother being 15 when she had her, and the challenges of that. And what that meant. And sort of one of the things that was really interesting that she talked about was growing up with her mother. And I mean that in the most literal sense, which is they were both growing up together. her mother was becoming an adult and she was becoming a young adult at the same time, because there's only 15 years between them, right? And that's a really unique situation for a kid to have. And and Patina talked about this, she talked about seeing her mother's sort of flaws and her fallibilities, and at the same time still loving her and trusting her and believing that she could take care of her, but being keenly aware of her mother's capabilities and, again, sort of capacity. Then when she actually read she actually, auditioned, first off, she already had the New York accent, which was spectacular because she's from South Carolina. So go figure.
You were supposed to tell him
that accent is thick. It's so good.
I don't know what they're doing in South Carolina, but let me tell you,
it's right on. I want like a slice or whatever New York defining thing every time I hear you speak. So yes, it's so on the money.
You want to send out for that Junior's cheesecake. You're like, man. So that was it. But then the scenes we gave her were a scene with Kanan where it's a very sort of emotional scene, another scene where she has to be, the boss. When she left, we all looked at each other, it was like, yeah, all right, we're done. We were very fortunate that we had that experience up and down this show, to be honest. It was the same, Mackay Curtis, who plays Kanan, same thing. London Brown, who plays Marvin, same thing. Malcolm Mays, Joey Badass, who plays Unique, Omar Epps. I mean, it just, we were so fortunate in that we found these actors who just inhabited these roles and just made them their own in ways that, again, we didn't expect, but really we're just so humbled and grateful. And when I say we, I mean the writers on the show.
Yeah. You know what? Let's stay there. This next question is for both of you guys. What was the moment that you both felt that, Rock was exactly who you both imagined her to be? Was it a particular scene? And if so, I would love to hear the build up to that.
I'm going to say 110. I'm going to say her on the roof. Even when we flash back from 101, when Rock is sort of like taking Kanan through the halls and she has the plan, she's talking about falling off the throne and she's very like uneasy about her own life, to then seeing all of the drama that she gets into, with Unique, and seeing her, everything kind of like fall all around her and her having to constantly pick up the pieces and constantly, she's always seeing things before they happen, to finally getting to 110 of her after everything's said and done, where, people underestimated her and she was right there the whole time, knew, what I mean? She had this plan, and then she's on the roof in that moment, proud of herself. I think the young girl, the young Rock, the young mother, the 15-year-old, she's finally gotten to a place that she can be really proud of in that moment, seeing her get that last look to the camera. You don't know what's going to happen next, but she's really happy and ready to go in to whatever that is. So that for me was that moment.
Yeah, that was a beautiful shot too that you just described. How about yourself, Sasha? What was the moment?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Patina's talking about 110, which is the first season finale. I actually will go to the first episode of the first season, actually the pilot. I actually sort of exhaled. I was like, okay, I get it. Like, because you never know. It's, you think you do, and then you're like,
that pilot.
Yeah. And so there's the scene in the first episode where Rock is in the dining room with the whole family, and she's having to have a very difficult conversation with her son in front of the whole family. And again, it is this intersection of the business and the family in that moment. And everyone is there. And it was in that moment where I was like, again, you saw both sides of Rock, but what you really saw, Kelley, for me was, I was like, oh yeah, this is a family. Like, and I really, really saw the family in that moment. It really, it was like, and I remember being behind the monitors, just being like, all right, there it is. We got it,
Yeah.
And it just was, and we had a great director. Actually, interestingly enough, the director of 101, which is the pilot, and 110, which is the season finale, was the same director, Rob Hardy. I'll watch that scene and I still have the same feeling of like, yeah, we got it.
Okay. Well, this is a good time to see a little bit more of this great show. So I'm going to toss to another clip.
We way more than a team. We family. We share everything and everyone. Nothing that's mine ain't yours. And it works the other way too. Your shit is my shit. For example, your recording studio. Yeah, it's my recording studio.
It's a record label. It ain't a studio. And it's clean, and it's gonna stay that way.
Clean, right? Where you get the money to pay for it, Lou? Nothing we touch is clean, nigga. Just the fact your hands on it make it dirty. You can't scrub out what we do. It stain everything. And them stains, they don't come out in the wash.
We could walk away. Make legit bread. Both of us. We got enough we could buy whole blocks in the hood and turn them into whatever the fuck we want. Me and you.
We don't have enough yet, Lou. But we will.
You gonna offer up your only son for it?
Ain't nobody offering up nothing. This shit is an investment. In Kanan, in you, in Marvin, in all of our future. I'm doing this for y'all. But y'all don't see it because you don't want to. Everybody, they want the reward, but don't nobody want to take on the risk. So I take it. I flip it, and I turn the shit out.
Woo, I'm laid out once again. That was such a great scene. Oh my God. I mean, I kind of naturally want to ask, can you maybe both talk about a typical day on set? I don't know if there's such a thing, but are there any funny or lighter stories you can share? Because the show, and I mean this in the best way possible, it's so intense and gripping. You guys had to have some fun at some point. So I would love to hear about something along those lines.
I mean, we always have fun. We're always laughing and joking in between, whether it's London falling asleep, like literally like all the time, or Malcolm saying something funny. I mean, we really have a great time. Yeah, we're doing some really deep work, and it requires all of us. But like when they call cut, we do find the joy, right? Because we do, at the end of the day, we're all very excited to be creating really great work. Thank you to Sascha and the writers team. Like, as an actor, all you want is to be able to do work and say words where you don't have to like cringe as you're saying it, or you try to like make more of it. You know what I mean? Where you have to work so hard. This work that we get to do is just, I think, is so great. The writing is just fantastic. And we often talk about how like, oh, you know what? Damn, that was so easy. We could just live, and we could just like, listen to each other and react and not have to try so hard. That feels good. And we celebrate that. I mean, it really is a family on set. I mean, Sascha tell you, we can get loud.
Yeah. I mean, first off, if you work with London Brown,
oh my God,
there will be plenty of light moments on set. But,
yes.
but I mean, I think, look, as you know, this is hard work, what we do. I mean, it's grueling work. These are long days. Feels like a collaboration. It feels like, hanging out with really smart people that you respect, who you want to be around, because they're going to make you better and you can help make them better. And it's just, it's sort of perfect in that way. It's and I don't know, maybe everyone says this, but there are moments where it really does feel magical. You're just sort of like, wow.
We often talk about too, being actors of color, the fact that like, I nothing against the past 6 years of my life were spent on a show where I was the only person of color. And so, oftentimes, as much as I loved my experience there and I love the writers there, I sometimes felt like the writing didn't really get me, and to be a part of a process, when we look at each other and like, damn, we get to do the work that like we love, like, the Ozarks and the Mayor of Easttowns and all of these really gripping dramas that like white people get to do all the time. Like, we get to do this, and we're doing it in a great way. And it's just so honest and raw and real, and just everybody from in front of to behind the camera, everybody is there and they love it so much, and everyone's dedicated to the work. And we really are, for me, we're creating just, I feel, really great work, and it's been a great experience.
I love hearing that. For those who are watching this, who have not had a chance to see the show, but are probably going to binge watch it very soon after watching this, what is one thing off the top of your head that will make someone want to tune in? Sascha, let's start with you on that one.
It's always hard to reduce it to one thing. I mean, look, I will say that the performances are spectacular in every aspect of the show. I mean, even the day players we have are just spectacular. I think what you're seeing is people really, and I said everyone gets better, but I do feel like as I sit there and watch the work every day, you have people who are performing at the height of their abilities, man. I mean, in the best possible way. And it really is a collaboration amongst all of us to make this thing what it is, And so I really do think that the performances are just as good as anything that is on TV or has ever been on TV. And, I hope that people who haven't watched it will check it out, because again, you don't need to have watched Power before to watch this show. It has there's nothing you need to know beforehand. It's all there for you. And I think, you get this, you also get a really interesting glimpse into New York at that time, 1991, the period of it all, I think is also really, really interesting. And it's, it brings you back to a different time, or if you weren't around then, you get to glimpse it for a little bit. So yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to reduce to one thing, but I do think that these actors have really just taken this material and brought it to a spectacular place.
Absolutely. Patina, how about yourself?
Yeah, I would just say that these characters are super flawed, right? Like they're so flawed, but to see this work, to see how they're humanized in this way, and what these actors bring to it, what we are blessed to be able to do to tell these characters' stories. These are real people, everyday people. It's raw, it's gritty, it's in your face, it's uncomfortable, but it's supposed to be uncomfortable. And you get to see people make choices, and choices have consequences, and you get to see how that plays out over the course of 10 episodes. Like I keep saying, it's about a mother and a son. It's a single mother, a Black single mom, trying to make a way for not only her son, but for her family and for those around her. And while also being a boss in being a female in a man's world.
That was one of the things that Courtney and 50 said to me early on, is they wanted to make sure that it felt different, that it felt like its own thing. And it does, because it's a very grounded show. This is not a rarefied world that these characters exist in. And to Patina's point, they are incredibly complex, and they are, there are moments where you root for them, and then the next moment you're like, damn, how was I flying the flag for that guy? And that's really a big part of the stories that we're telling, which is that people can be one thing in one aspect of their lives and something else in another part of their lives, but they're still the same person, And so, yeah, I think that's Patina's answer was great.
That was perfect.
Co-signing that answer.
Well, I want to thank our...
I like it better than mine. Let's just use her answer.
You both had fine answers to that question.
Thank you.
Want to thank our friends at Stars and to Sascha and Patina for talking with us today. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us today for Half Hour With.
Thank you so much, Doug. Great seeing you.